Hey, what's up YouTube? Michael Parati here. Once again, going to be talking about some Guilty Gear Strive here today. Now, it's been officially a week since it released on all platforms. And since then, we have had hundreds of Guilty Gear Strive tournaments. And I really mean hundreds. You can just pull up the smash.gg, search feature under Guilty Gear Strive. There's pages upon pages upon pages and pages of it. And so with that, I want to go over a couple of the really big ones that we had this last week and talk about the top 8s a little bit. So I think right out the gate, the biggest one you absolutely have to talk about is Levo. The Levo tournament had 4 separate tournaments. It had the NA and EU separate brackets for the main brackets, and then it also had an NA and EU beginner series of brackets as well. The tournament was an absolute huge success. The Matcherino hit just about $4,000. It might have actually crossed over $4,000 by the end of the night. I think at the end of top 8 it was at like $3,900 or something crazy. So massive tournament, hundreds of entrants. Yeah, so right under the attendees page on the smash.gg page, it does say 542 total attendees. That's broken up into the different brackets. We see that the Guilty Gear Strive EU bracket had 86 entrants in the main bracket, which then obviously whittled down, whereas the NA bracket had 334 entrants. And this is last Saturday. This was the day after Guilty Gear Strive was fully released. Now the tournament was on the PlayStation version, so that was technically out since Tuesday, as long as you had a pre-order. So there was a ton of practiced players in here. I mean, looking at just the NA bracket itself, the top 8 alone was insane. Tons and tons of storied anime players, storied fighting game players in general. We have Sonic Fox, Super Noon, Punk, we have Hanzo Gonzo, Reynald, Omniscythe, Tempest, like tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of players that everybody knows, everybody's rooted for in some form or another, and the other top 16 and top 64 as well. Just the list goes on with players that you've heard of. And looking over at the EU side, even in top 8 alone, we have tons of players that are very common and you typically see in these positions. We have Snake Belmont, we have Uckerall, Niffy, Popatino, Dizzy, Zoger, and Mick, with Varix also in the top 8. So for what you could call a day 5 tournament, tons of killers, and honestly, the level of play was huge. It was so much fun to watch. The character diversity was also pretty out there. We had Chips, Maze Souls, obviously, that pretty much to be expected. Ramlethal was up there as well. So there was some fun picks. Like I said, we had a chip here from Reynald that was kind of spicy. I would love to see that played out a little bit more. And super fun tournament. Both EU and NA had losers bracket resets that were quite dominant. So if you haven't peeped the VODs already, they are still available on twitch.tv/Leffen. So check that out. So now obviously the Levo event was on Saturday. So technically not day 1, even if you were on PC. The game came out on Friday, and there were 2 big tournaments that were that day as well. One of them was run by Casa. It was the PlayStation version, so everybody's had a ton of practice on that one as well. The other tournament that was run on Wednesday was the online locals Guilty Gear Strive PC event. Both events had a good number of players. The online local had 27 entrants, and the Casa event had 61 total for Strive. Looking at the challenge, the top 3 here was Jaywong, Sir Nookington, and Shake in that order, 1st to 3rd. And looking at the bracket, it's kind of crazy because you see Jaywong falls to Sir Nookington in round 2, 2-1. And then Jaywong has to have this absolutely crazy long losers bracket run to even get back into grand finals. So they managed to get the reset. They won again. Very dominant fashion. This is a very similar situation to the Levo NA event and the EU event, where just the grand finals are stomps from the loser side. And so really interesting to see how that actually came to be. Just the momentum you gain from losers sometimes can offset just the absolute power drain from having to play that many more matches. And then, like I said, we did have the other Friday night event over on the Casa. We had a 61-man bracket. Tons of the Guilty Gear plus R players came out to support the Strive event once again. Now for the Strive, we did have our top 3, Fluxed-Over, Kusanagi, and Diaphone. In those 3, Diaphone on the Eno was insane. So much fun to watch. Did fall just short of Kusanagi and Fluxed-Over, but again, can't take it away from a first week tournament, getting to third place. Kusanagi was an absolute nut all over the place. Fluxed over was insane as well. Definitely a huge event, ton of fun. Now, both of those events are still going to be weekly concurrents, so you can still enter in the Casa Bunch Guilty Gear Strive tournaments on PlayStation, as well as the online locals Guilty Gear event on PC. Both of them are going to be this Friday, 6/18, tonight, pretty much, so be sure to find those on their socials at the online local on Twitter, at CasaBunch on Twitter to get signed up for those. And then to close things out, another really big event that happened within this first week of Guilty Gear Strive. It happened on Monday, June 14th. It was the Tampa Never Sleeps Guilty Gear online local. It was the first of many to come. They had a minimum $250 prize pool. I don't know exactly what it ended up being at the end of the day, but they had a ton of players, almost completely capped out. It was 128 cap, and they had 116 attendees. So another massive tournament. I mean, that's huge. That's like the second largest Guilty Gear Strive tournament in week 1. And it happened on a Monday night, which is absurd. Looking at their top 8, you can see players that have been playing in a ton of anime games through this last year. We have John, who has been playing in BB Tag, in Grand Blue Versus, now playing a ton of Strive. We had Papa Leo, So Sick Nashvan, Not Enough Damage, Natural Haste, Nitro, Frosted, and that guy. So tons and tons of competition. Again, it's top 8 at a weekly in the week 1. Everybody's coming out to play these games. Everybody is having fun with it and just showing off, really. It's probably the big thing is they're just showing off a lot of the tech that they've secretly labbed and then posted to Twitter afterwards. So, now the TNS event was again on PlayStation. It just seemed to be the general consensus that the PlayStation version was a bit more solid than the PC edition. I do know that there have been a ton of connection issues on the PC edition, so that's why everybody seems to be kind of gravitating towards the PlayStation one. Plus, it'll just feel more natural when we do go back to these online events, and they're all running on PS4s, PS5s anyway. Looking at the top 8 bracket for TNS, it's a little bit of a different story than what the last 3 tournaments we talked about were, where it was just sick runbacks from loser's side. Somebody got knocked down, powered through, and managed to bring it back in the end. No, this one, it's a little bit different. We had John knock down Papaleo in winners finals for Papaleo to immediately 3-1 Nashvan and try to go back for that grand final and potentially get a reset. Simply didn't happen. Jan shut it down 3-0 right away, claimed their victory, and just moved on with the night and went on to their next tournament. So, bit of a different story, but that's just week 1, right? All of these events, they're the first ever edition of what they showcased. And now we can move forward. Now we can move into even more events. Again, I do know that Casa and the online local are going to be running events again tonight, January 18th, as well as Tampa Never Sleeps going to be running Moors on Monday. That's the weekly. That's what weekly means. I do know that Leffen talked on stream about wanting to have these bi-weekly. They did announce that they're having a massive event on July 3rd for both NA and EU for Guilty Gear Strive. That is going to be a big one. I believe it was $1,000 prize pool minimum. Obviously, they're going to have a match in Reno. That thing is going to be insane. So you guys, if you're interested in that one, right? If you're interested in that big Levo tournament, NA, EU, minimum $1,000 prize pool, you have 2 weeks to practice, and you're gonna have to beat the likes of Sonic Fox, Punk, Super Noon. Like, you get practicing. That's all I have to say. Is just get in the lab, practice, 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 practice. Enter all these other weekly events. Enter TNS, enter Casa, enter whatever tournament you can find on Smash.gg. Just play the game and practice, and hopefully you win. So that was just a bit of a weekly recap of some of the bigger tournaments here in week 1 of Guilty Gear Strive. If you guys liked what you heard here today, be sure to hit that like button and let the YouTube algorithm know that it's something that was informative and something you would like other people to see. If you guys liked this kind of recap video where I go over the different tournaments of the week, let me know down in the comments below and we can keep the series going, because this is definitely something I love to do. I loved going back over the VODs and peeping all the different techniques and little strats and just the little gimmicks that people were using to power their way through the tournament. So thank you everybody for tuning into this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace.